Hey. This probably wasn't what a lot of people were expecting after last video. And I also knew I'd say I get the Smash predictions video out hopefully in time before Game Awards. Unfortunately, that just wasn't in the cards. A lot of stuff going on at home. And just ended up happening. Luckily everything's okay now though. Since that video, Nintendo has now shut down a Splatoon tournament organized by them in response to the Splatoon community coming in support of Melee, which, thank you Splatoon community, but they just appear to be doubling down. Again, the main point of that last video was just, I want Nintendo to understand their fans a little bit more and see where they're coming from, especially at a time like this. Now, I don't want this video to come off as any sort of support for what Nintendo's doing right now. I still love Nintendo, I just don't like this version of Nintendo that's been going on lately. It's just not a good look. And I hope one day they come around, but at the moment, pretty unlikely. Like I said last time, the main reason I wanted to get that video out was because of the Game Awards, which I'm kind of feeling like there's probably going to be a Smash reveal. It is now 2 months from Steve's release, and the pipeline seemed pretty good for a reveal here. At least a reveal, probably not the actual character drop. I'd imagine that would happen in January, February, sometime after. I also know last year's Game Awards didn't have a Smash reveal, which came as a surprise to a lot of people, me included. For some reason, I don't even know why. But this year seems like, I feel like Nintendo at least has one more announcement for the year ends up their sleeve, and if there's any time to do it, I feel like it'd be now. So the question is, what character could we see at the Game Awards? Obviously, I feel like for a good Game Awards reveal, you want something really surprising. When Joker was revealed back in 2018, that came as a huge surprise to everyone. No one saw that coming. Obviously very in theme with the character, but that was definitely a very out of left field appearance. So with that in mind, I don't imagine you'd see a character like Gino or Ryu Hayabusa, or let's say just any like first party Nintendo character. I feel like it's got to be something third party because it has to be really groundbreaking. I'd also say you want something with a little bit more Western appeal. Obviously this is an American event, it's not like E3 or like Nintendo's E3 or anything like that. You definitely want to have something with at least broad appeal, I'll say. I don't imagine you'd see something like a Dragon Quest hero or maybe even like a Touhou character. I'd imagine you'd want something that appeals to the Western gaming market. I'd also say another thing you want to be is sort of in theme with the Game Awards. Obviously, when Joker came out in 2018, Persona 5 already was out, so it wasn't up for any awards or nominations or anything like that. But the year prior, it cleaned house at the Game Awards. It was a huge hit. So with all that in mind, who do I think would be a good candidate for a potential Game Awards Smash reveal? Sora's a character who, obviously, if he got in, he'd be really surprising. Definitely, especially just considering all the hurdles that character has to go through with Disney and all the sort of stuff like that. And even I think back to things like the Imran Khan interview. At the same time, Kingdom Hearts doesn't have too much presence at this year's Game Awards. And again, he just seems a little too impossible for me. For thinking about stuff with broad gaming appeal, Master Chief comes to mind. Obviously you have things like the Fortnite leak of him being a character skin. And there's definitely a lot of Halo promotion that was supposed to be going on this year. Unfortunately, with Infinite getting delayed, kind of threw a wrench into things, but considering Steve, I don't feel like Chief has much of a shot at this point getting into the pass, unfortunately. Just because it's sort of an unwritten rule that per pass, it's one company per character. Obviously, it's not a real rule, and again, Sakurai's always breaking his own rules, but I think back to something like the first Fighter's Pass, and obviously it got confirmed to us that Steve was in the works for like 5 years or so. So I feel like if that is the case, he would have been in the first Fighter's Pass, along with Banjo. But that ended up happening, so. Another character who would be good to show off here is Jeff Keighley's best friend, Crash Bandicoot. Crash does have some presence this year, obviously with Crash 4 coming out, but the thing going against Crash, even though I think it would make a lot of people happy, and I still think he's very likely, it's just that it's not too surprising. Most people expect Crash to be in Smash at this point. I don't imagine he'd be a real head turner. Again, it's likely, and that's why I think it's unlikely. So what character do I think is going to get revealed at the Game Awards? Well, in my hat, the title of the video. listen to the music playing. Doomslayer gets thrown out a lot when it comes to Smash speculation, and obviously the first thing that comes to mind when you bring them up is, whoa, that character is way too violent to be in Smash. Characters like Bayonetta and Joker have come in already and proved that M-rated characters can get into Smash with a little bit of tweaking. So what are some reasons Nintendo would want Doomslayer to be in Smash? Well, obviously you have, finally, Doom Eternal being released on Switch, which actually, at the time of recording, is the day of. A long time coming. I mean, what, 9 months after the game's initial release? And it's finally here. Interestingly enough, 2 days before the Game Awards. On top of that, in anticipation for this game coming out, you've had tons of Doom titles getting ported over to the Switch. Just like from last year up until now, which was just an insane amount of games coming. Interestingly enough, the Switch release date is actually 2 days prior to Doom's initial anniversary of the first Doom game, which is also the same day of the Game Awards, which is, some bit of, might be a coincidence, but you never know. And again, Eternal is a contender for Game of the Year this year. It's in a ton of categories, and it's definitely gonna have a lot of focus at this event. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna halt me in my tracks and mention the Marty Stratton interview from, I think, a year ago now. Basically, if you didn't know, there was an interview with executive producer of id Software, Marty Stratton, where the interviewer asked a question about Doomguy being in Smash, and Marty basically said that talks didn't really go anywhere with Nintendo, even though he did mention that there were talks. Most people would see that and consider it an NDA break, but he didn't go into too much detail. Again, it's kind of vague. It's definitely a lot more detailed than Grant Kirkhope with Banjo, which obviously ended up coming to fruition, but it's not too specific. And the big thing with him saying that the talks went nowhere is the Vault Boy Mii costume. If talks really went nowhere, again, he could only be referring to Doomguy being in Smash, but if talks for Smash and Bethesda really went nowhere, then how is this in the game? And while we're on the topic of Mii costumes, around almost the same time last year, there was a little bit of an interesting leak, or potential leak. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was a video of Ken fighting on, I believe, the Dragon Quest stage with a Mii that had a Cacodemon hat and another Mii that had a Mallow hat from Super Mario RPG. Now, I'd imagine most people would brush it off as a fake, but there's a lot of things in that video that line up with an image that, to this day, is one of the only real Smash leaks to ever happen, and that's the Ken leak. If you haven't seen it, the video is clear as day. The timer in the corner isn't moving, which might indicate that it's possibly a dev build, and the Mii hats themselves are to a quality that modders considered impossible, at least at the time. Again, people are amazing with mods. Obviously, you look at something like Slippy. Again, it's been a year since that video was made public, and it hasn't been proven as fake yet. At the same time, it also hasn't been proven real with an actual, like, reveal, obviously. I think back to stuff like the ESRB leak for Smash 4, and as soon as Nintendo caught wind of that was immediately down. And to this day, the Kakomel video, you can still find it anywhere, which kind of leads people to believe that it's probably fake. At the same time, though, it's been a year and it still hasn't been disproven yet. And the main thing is that when Steve got announced, it really made me recontextualize a lot about how I think of Smash development, especially considering that Steve was in the works for upwards of 5 years, according to some Mojang employees. And I feel like if Bethesda did say yes, they would probably want Doomguy's release to coincide with the Switch release of Doom Eternal. Again, Steve's proven that Smash characters could be in the pipeline for years. There could be characters planned back to even Smash 4 that we don't know about yet. Looking at you, Gino. And on the same topic of Steve, most people would probably say, well, Tom, didn't you just say that Chief is unlikely because we already have a Microsoft character in the past? What about the Bethesda-Microsoft deal? If we're to consider Kakomel real and assume that Doomguy is a character along with it, that would mean that the Bethesda-Microsoft deal wasn't even a reality when Doomguy was added to Smash. Technically added to Smash. When I think of Doomguy, I actually think of a lot of similarities to Terry. Terry was a character no one really anticipated to be in, and even though it was a character Sakurai was really excited to work on, and that's definitely why he's in the game, there was definitely a lot of SNK properties on Nintendo Switch Online that you had access to prior to that, and I just keep thinking about all these Doom games on Switch that we have now, and now we finally have Eternal. Again, there's still a lot of things going against Doom Guy. He is a very Western-leaning character, which most characters, especially if we're looking at Last Fighters Pass, are more towards the East. We also have Kako Malo could be real, but it could just be the Kako demon head, and it could just not be Doom Guy and just be a Mii costume. And maybe Marty was telling the truth. Maybe the deals didn't go anywhere. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I don't imagine Nintendo going to Bethesda and not trying to ask for a character. And if they did get a character, I don't imagine why it wouldn't be Doom Guy. Doom is not only one of the grandfathers of the FPS genre, it's also one of the grandfathers of PC gaming as a whole, which is two things that at the moment Smash is sorely lacking. And again, I should mention at the moment there is also a lot of stuff going for Fortnite in Smash at the moment. I think that's just going to be a Mii costume. I'd at least hope that Nintendo isn't too desperate to crave towards the Zoomer crowd with Fortnite. But, I couldn't fault them for doing it either. At the same time, that's also the reason why I feel like Doom Guy needs to happen on this pass. We already have Min Min and Steve, who are from pretty recent games. Doom has a history that goes back even further than all those characters. Really, at the end of the day, this feels like an opportunity to do something really unprecedented in Smash. And yes, even though he is very rip and tear, I know, Doom still sort of leads into fantasy, especially now that they've returned to that form with Eternal and Doom 2016. I think it's stuff like Cacodemon. Cacodemon's just a big ball with an eye, and honestly, you can probably confuse him for a Zelda villain or a Metroid villain. Again, there's ways to tone down Doom Guy so he's not all fucking ripping Mario's guts out and shit. And even though Doom is really away from anything Nintendo usually fares in, it does have a lot of history with Nintendo. You had SNES ports, obviously you had Doom 64, which, where do you think the namesake comes from? Doom has such a long history with gaming as a whole, and Nintendo, that I don't see why they wouldn't want to make this happen. When it comes to third parties especially, I know Sakurai likes to get characters that are iconic, landmarks of their genre characters that really make Smash feel like a celebration of gaming, which it is. And at the end of the day, I don't see why these three parties, Bethesda, Sakurai, and Nintendo, wouldn't want to all come together and bring something to Smash that is really, really, really new to it, and really out of left field, and really, really does make Ultimate feel Ultimate. Again, if you can tell by the hat, I'm a little biased. Doom Guy is probably one of the most realistic characters I can have get in at this point. I know realistic, and he's like one of the most gritty characters possible, but again, he's very relevant right now, which is surprising. And I feel like if there's any time to bring this character into Smash, it would be right now. And again, this isn't concrete or anything. This is just my thoughts going into Game Awards, and I'm hedging my bets on this. I kind of feel pretty confident, to be honest. So I figured I'd get this out there before that happens. Again, I'd like to apologize for me not being able to get out that very big Smash video. I'm sorry of all these little sort of impromptu videos. I really did want to get it out in time, but again, this didn't happen. So that video isn't off the table yet. I'll definitely go back to it at some point. It's just not really in my timeline right now. I'm not really itching to get it out, but you'll see it someday. I may work on some other stuff in the meantime. And I definitely have a lot more planned before the year ends, so if you're subscribed here, that's great. There's definitely probably going to be a lot more stuff on the Twitch side of things, just because it's a lot easier to do at the moment. And, Twitter, if you just want updates. I say it all the time, but I really do appreciate the people that always come out and just watch whatever bullshit I put out there. So once again, thank you. I will be streaming my reaction to the Game Awards, just, in case anything happens. Again, I'm not 100% on anything, but... And hey, it's free content. So if you feel like watching along, feel free to join. Again, this is just something I wanted to get out prior. Just me hedging my bets. But if you enjoyed, wherever you are, what time of day it is, hope you're having a good one. And it's currently 3:38. This is my second time trying to record this video, so hopefully this goes well. Take care.